from Councillors Ian Bond and Jason Mack.
Yeah. And the rest of us here, so that's good. Any declarations of interest in anything that's forming the agenda this evening? In that case, I'll declare an interest. Item number 5, War Memorial Repair, as a member of the Royal British Legion and former chairman thereof.
In which case, then I should also.
Thank you, Councillor Marvin. Thank you. No more declarations of interest. Item number 3, minutes of previous meetings. Town Council meeting 13th of August 2018. For approval, I take it you've all circulated and read. Do I have a proposer, please? Councillor Hill, second by Councillor Logan. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Planning Committee meeting 28th of August 2018 for information only. Thank you very much. Item number 4, finance report at the back. Thank you.
Yes, it's a short one because there's not much as in the ordinary report. As usual, it provides the information that at the 31st of August, the balance of the Town Council's funds stood at 331,359, and both bank accounts have been reconciled to that date. Payments during August total 46,795, with 8,209 being attributable to Salisbury Gardens. The full list of expenditures is attached as usual. If anybody has questions or comments to make on those. Receipts during the period were 21,768, with 15,743 of that attributable to Salisbury Gardens. Year-to-date variances against budget for the first 5 months of the financial year, again attached to this report, and reassuringly the expenditure is less than budget by £2,775, and the receipts were higher than budget by £6,560, and long may that continue, we all say.
Indeed, well done. Okay, colleagues. There's many questions of the clerk in relation to the finance report. In that case, can I have a proposal? Councillor Martin, second, please. Councillor Geddes. All those in favour, please show. Unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Okay. Item number 5, the War Memorial Repair. I think I'll let the clerk begin this.
Members will remember approving the application for a grant to the War Memorial Trust for the repair to the slate that had been attached to the War Memorial. Everybody assumed that it was there for the life of the monument itself, but January storms broke it off and it's irreparable. So we submitted a grant application to the War Memorials Trust as agreed, and Town Council at that time committed to match funding, and it would be required, and at that stage we had hoped that it would be the War Memorial Trust's maximum of 75% of the cost of the repair from the grant, with the other 25% coming from the Town Council's funds. In the event, as you can see from section 2, War Memorials Trust is under pressure, particularly this year, for its funding because of the significance of the November the 11th events due to be held off this year, and consequently it decided to grant not at the 75% it advertises as usual, but at the 50% level. And in addition, it based it on the lower of the 2 quotes that we had submitted. So, although we had a grant for £1,740 based on 50% of the cheaper quotation, that means a larger amount required for much funding. So there is an additional amount on top of what the Town Council has already committed of £1,645 to close that gap. And as you can see from section 3B, after discussions with the Legion, the proposal is that the additional requirement is met fully by the Town Council initially, because the Legion at this stage has no available funds to contribute to it, but they are willing to contribute over time to 50% of the additional element required. So the proposal is that the Town Council meets the full cost in order to allow the necessary repairs to be done in time to the 11th of November planned events, with half of that being treated as a temporary loan to the Legion to be repaid over the following 12 months through fundraising events. So you have the recommendation that concludes that report, and of course any comments or discussion for alternative proposals. Chair.
Thank you very much, David. If I could just add to that very thorough explanation by David, that I am a trustee of the fund at the Legion, together with a gentleman called Nigel Hawley, who some of you may know, some of you may not know. But Nigel is in hospital. He had a hip replacement operation that has gone drastically wrong. Whoever had the titanium implant snapping in two. Well, it's happened in this case. For second time in 24 years, he's suffering, and that's by the by. Anyway, he's indisposed until November. He's handed over all bank statements and everything else, checkbooks and paying in books to me, together with £300 worth of cheques, which I don't know if they were included in the original sum that Frank was talking about. So there will be £300 worth of cheques being paid into the bank, probably tomorrow. That's all I've got to add to it. So, if any councillors have anything to say?
It'd be wrong if we didn't do it. Sorry, I beg your pardon. It'd be wrong if we didn't do it, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
we need support.
Yeah.
Definitely, we do, really, very much so.
I'd like to add one thing that isn't necessarily right on the script here, but there is a problem with the ownership of the memorial, the monument, and the little plot it sits on, and we need to investigate that as a longer term exercise, because I have this suspicion that the Isle of Wight Council, as the inheritor council of all previous Ventnor councils, may well actually have responsibility for this, but we can't wait for them to sort themselves out.
Okay. So how did that get plugged up to you?
Well, when we originally did the inspection to see whether it was falling over, which was what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, more now probably.
Well, it was a while back.
Yeah.
It was then came to light that it wasn't clear, and of course, expending this amount of money now sorting out the actual memorial plates, as we have done, because it's been regilded the First World War side and now replacing the Second World War side, it becomes a bit more urgent. Who actually owns it?
Notwithstanding that, it's the time is marching on.
Yeah, I was just going to say pretty much that the ownership of the land is probably neither here nor there in terms of what happens to the war memorial that's on it and the responsibility for looking after that war memorial. Because somebody owns the piece of land, or a body owns the piece of land on which the war memorial sits, it doesn't mean that therefore it's their job to look after that object forever. So it's two separate.
No, I entirely agree. Yeah. I don't think anybody would disagree with that.
Just to add, the land registry record of Ventnor Park explicitly excludes the bit around the war memorial.
Oh,
that's interesting.
And whenever it was 5 years ago, I think we looked at the state of the war memorial's stability, and at that point, the Isle of Wight Council made it clear that It's nothing to do with them.
Is it unregistered? Is it
It
unregistered?
is.
Oh, right.
So the red line
So-
goes behind it.
It goes round it.
Round
Who
it.
knows?
Yes.
Very interesting.
The only thing is, did you know the architect we employed at that time? I wonder if he dug anything out, because he is quite thorough man, wasn't he?
Who was it?
I just don't think. I've got all the paperwork at home still.
I bet you have.
Yeah, it was
And
in the file. In the file. Yeah. If you know, I my hands easy. I look at it actually because he was a very thorough man. He's very interested in that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I will dig it out and find out if there's information
Yeah,
which will help you.
if it was unregistered.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get somebody to squat on it for 7 years and claim ownership.
I'll also make inquiries at the Ventnor Heritage Centre and see if they have anything.
Good, thanks, Councillor Geddes. Any councillors have anything to add before we move to the vote? Thank you, councillors. The recommendation is that we approve the additional £1,645 net cost of the repairs on the basis identified in section 3B above, and I think we'll take both together. This seems sensible. Authorise the clerk to commission repairs from Whitestone Masonry Limited. Can we have somebody to move the motion, please? Councillor Logan, second, please. Councillor Toogood. All those in favour, please show. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Item number 6, regeneration strategy response. That's a mouthful, but it's,
I'd probably better.
yes, I think it's better.
Thank you. I think members are aware of the background to this. The strategy was produced by Chris Ashman, who came to last month's Town Council meeting, and his team at the Isle of Wight Council, as the basis for an island-wide consultation. And when the Town Council discussed that in the August meeting, after we'd heard from Chris Ashman, it was agreed to set up a small working group, Tony Marvin, James Twood, Billy Hill and Joe Robin, together with to be joined by the clerk and Nick Cox. That group met, as the report says, on Wednesday, 29th of August, for a really interesting 2 hours. At least I found it interesting. I don't know about others who speak for themselves in due course. After that, I went away and did my best to summarise the results of that discussion and add additional material that had come from discussions that Nick Cox and I had, as it wasn't available in the day for. So I then circulated my draft in response to that draft and to the group members, and everyone indicated that they were happy with it. And so it's come here as the minutes of our last meeting required for consideration. And after any amendments or additions resulting from this discussion, a proposal to submit it to the Isle of Wight Council. The consultation closes on the 12th of October.
Thank you, David. Before we move to the discussion, I think you and the staff would be commended on the thoroughness of the report attached here. It's quite detailed and, well, it goes pretty much the whole way towards outlining the things that we were concerned about at the time, which were many and varied, as I recall, at the time.
Now, the reason it's detailed is because it's the best strategy I've seen in recent years that merited a proper response. It is.
Well,
it's thoroughly done, it's wide-ranging, it makes an attempt to deal with the issues that have been outstanding for some time.
Yeah.
And so, as you can see, this draft is based on answering or responding to all the questions actually posed in the document itself.
Sure. Okay, councillors.
Thank you.
Councillor Geddes.
I've read it, it looks like a very good response. To echo what you say about the work involved in putting it together. And I can't think of anything else to add to it.
Any more?
I don't want to interrupt anything, but there are some specific things I've put into this report that I would want the council to be aware of, because it's a lot of reading. Although you've done it. I doubt there's any objection to the proposal that we're asking in this draft for the land in Upper Ventnor to be specifically included in the revised draft. As you know, the site of Ventnor Central is already included, and given the conversations we've had with Chris Ashman and his team, it just seems to make sense to include the other one.
Okay, in view of the stated ambition, I think you might euphemistically call it that the Alloy Council is not minded to dispose of any more assets. I take it that's by way of sale and not by way of deed or any other way. Is there anything coming out of County Hall?
What we have?
Sorry, I'm specifically referring to the land at Upper Ventnor in that context.
What we have from the Isle of Wight Council is what's called in these negotiations a letter of comfort, in which they say that they are prepared to work on a partnership basis with the Town Council in the development of the site. There are no specific commitments other than that, and I wouldn't expect them at this stage, because it would not be unreasonable for them to expect, whether they actually get it or not, some return on the sale, unlike Ventnor Central, where they have that same letter of comfort commits to providing the site on the same basis as they would have done to Sovereign, which is at nil value.
Sure.
But the letter of comfort covers both.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably as much as you can expect, as you just say, at this stage in the proceedings. Councillors, nothing to add? Okay. Right, well.
There's one more thing.
I'd say it's like half an hour for this discussion.
Yes. There's one further recommendation in here, which is in the section that deals with communications. And I've been so impressed by the development that Tony McCarthy has led with the South Wight Locality Health and Wellbeing Forum, which, as members know, brings together representatives from all 13 of the My Life and Full Life South locality area on a 6-weekly basis to meet with senior staff across the whole field of health and wellbeing services. And it's proved very effective, not just for us, but for the managers involved as well. It provides feedback both ways. It ensures that town and parish councils are informed about recent developments and future proposals. So it works really well. And I was keen that we suggested in the draft I put here that it's worth proposing to Chris Ashman and his team that we have a similar structure for the Bay, as it's now known, which just happens to almost exactly, but not quite, because you can't expect that, can you, but almost exactly coincides with the South Wight locality. So there are 12 areas, 12 town and parish councils included in what the regeneration strategy calls the Bay. And it seems to me it would make sense to put together a similar forum, not the same one, because it needs to be different people, but it probably meeting quarterly rather than 6 monthly, because things will move rather more slowly in this area than others. But it would again provide the regeneration team with direct communication with the town and parish councils. And the basis for it is there because one of the reasons why I was impressed with this strategy rather more than I have been by others I've seen recently is because it refers to town and parish councils directly and on several occasions in the document. And I just hope the town and parish councils will feel able to respond to that and collaborate with the regeneration approach in the Bay Area. As long as you're aware of that, because if you just approve this, then that will go within it.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's clear to me, then. Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, I'm curious. Because we have the Bay, okay. What are we going to be? Like round the corner, Undercliff, South Bay? I do think that we have to establish our identity, actually, very strongly before we.
I think we very much vehemently laid down our feelings on that when the gentleman from Margaret Council came and spoke to us, and I think Councillor Peace left with the impression that we were very strong-minded about the fact that we don't really want to be included within the Bay Area. So are you suggesting that we rename ourselves?
I am, yeah. I think that we should ourselves have to think about this because we have our geographic position.
Well,
and if they've got theirs and we have ours, I think that we should think about that. Yeah, because if we're going to pursue this, then we have to have.
Well, I don't think it's something that can be either addressed or decided upon at this meeting, but.
Yes, I mean, there are real advantages to the Ventnor in being part of the Bay for these purposes. But as a result of the meeting we had and the discussion we had about this, because it was obviously important to the group and it was discussed very fully, in response to that, what I've done is to remind in the draft that the existing island core plan acknowledges Ventnor along the freshwater as a smaller regeneration area with specific needs that need to be addressed. And I've asked that they are included in this document too. So what I hope the Town Council will get is the benefits both of being in the Bay, because if we're not, we stand every chance of being sidelined, I think. But also with a clear recognition of the particular issues that the smaller regenerations had that were recognised in the core plan, and the work that the late Councillor Ed Goose did in responding to the consultation on the new core plan, that should be there again, because that's what was asked for. So what we're looking for is to make sure Ventnor's unique issues are acknowledged while joining with the rest in what is a much larger area.
Sorry, Councillor Hill.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to respond obviously to what Clark's mentioned. I actually entered the meeting that we had, the regeneration meeting. I'm sure Jim will remember, and yourself, David, particularly, and I'm sure Dave and Tony as well. I actually was quite a strong opposer to begin with. I was very sceptical of the fact that we were going to be all of a sudden, I mean, to quote my own words last month, lumbered into the Bay. But I've, since looking at this in detail and hearing what David mentioned at the meeting, I actually could see the other side, and I could see that point, and I personally just wanted to add that in to say, as someone that was initially a sceptic, I think that actually the way we're going around it is probably a good idea, because it means that hopefully, rather than being sidelined, I think as Clark just mentioned, we will hopefully have a bit more of the say, a bit more of involvement, because if we're classified as being in the Bay, maybe that, well, I say maybe, hopefully, this is my opinion, we will have a better voice, and if they do ignore us as a town, then it will be evidently discriminatory for them to do so, and that's where my point of view came from.
Yeah.
So as someone that was sceptical of it, I've sort of I've had a look at the details, and I personally feel it's a good idea. But then I am still open to persuasion. I'm following it very closely.
Yeah, thank you, Billy. That's very helpful. And I don't think that precludes us from in future discussing our identity going forward. I think we're just talking about, for the purposes of the regeneration strategy, the benefits, as the Park has outlined, outweigh the disadvantages. The being sort of, if you don't not including the Bay Area, but you know, as an addendum to the Bay Area as such. And then going forward, we can certainly, as a council or as a community, not just as a council, you know, look into this and see where I see Councillor Pieces nodding his head in agreement. So thank you very much, Gary, for that. So yeah, I think that has its merits.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion was really putting it in layman's terms. You know, was that it's a little bit like the Isle of Wight's classified as being part of the South East. You know, it's the South East, but we're still the Isle of Wight.
We're not being an island as far as area.
Yes, yeah, exactly, and that's sort of the way I was looking at it. You know, I didn't feel there was a great threat or a big sort of, you know, scary monster that was about to come out of the closet with this. You know, I feel quite positive about it.
Gary, do you have anything to come back on?
No, I think that's a very useful discussion because yes, that's the way we have to progress. We must always, you know, find our advantages, but don't forget who we are.
It's nice to be one voice and masses like this. That's a lovely.
Just a quick one. One of the things I took from the two discussions was that we need to be proactive. I took that very much from Mr. Ashman when he was here, because what he was saying was, you give us something to cling on to. You give us the projects we're supporting. And I think that is how we have to approach this, to say that we have to drive Ventnor and go to them and say, yeah, we're doing this. We will, as part of your regeneration, we want to support you in this. And I think that was the kind of message I took from it. Whether it comes to be or not, I think we have to play our part.
I think it just goes to show that as far as they're concerned, we are a forward-thinking council, and we are a council that, you know, that has the courage of its convictions, if you like, and representing the area that we're in. Thank you very much. Councillors, any more before we move to the recommendation? Right, I'm looking for a mover. The recommendation is that we consider the draft response in the context of the Town Council's relationship with the due regeneration teamless programme. I think we can take that as read. And that we agree its submission within the consultation process, including any amendments or additions agreed at this meeting. Well, there have been no amendments agreed as far as I can see. So could I have a mover, please? Councillor Toogood, seconder. Councillor Madden. All those in favour, please show. Unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Well done, David. That's excellent. Right. Item number 7. We have visited before, and it's back before us again this evening. So I'll just go through this quickly. You'll all have read it, but I'll just read it for sorry? Dave, sorry? Yeah, Ventnor. Have you got it there? Sure. Okay. Following its discussion of Ventnor Day 2019 at its meeting of the 9th of July 2018, the Town Council resolved in minute 79-18 to set the date for it at the 22nd of June. We're talking 22nd of June 2019 here, of course. The matter was in the agenda for the meeting of the Community Development Working Group meeting of the 24th of July, and note to be records its decision as, in italics, we discussed the problems arising from the Town Council decision to hold the 2019 event in June, and agreed to ask the Council to reconsider retaining the first Saturday in July as the now established day for it, while ensuring the direct involvement with any other local events on the same day. This was reported to the August meeting of the Town Council when it was agreed to revisit the matter at its next meeting, which is this meeting today. Paragraph 2. In order to consider the recommendation of the Community Development Working Group meeting of 24 July to change the decision of the July meeting of the Town Council and to set the date for Ventnor Day at 6 July 2019, it will be necessary to agree to suspend Standing Order 11. The recommendation is that members are recommended to resolve to suspend Standing Order 11 for this agenda item only. And I'm looking for a mover. Councillor Martin, seconder. Councillor Geddes, all those in favour, please show. Please show, sorry, I need a count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Against? Abstentions? 1, 2 abstentions. That recommendation is resolved. Thank you very much. Item 8 on the agenda, the health update will be held in abeyance. Sorry.
On the last bit.
Oh, sorry, I'm not begging pardon. I'm flying over the 4 pints of lager and a packet of crisps, please. The recommendation, subject to the acceptance of the recommendation, section 2B of this report, members are recommended to accept the recommendation of the Community Development Working Group and set the date for Ventnor Day 2019 as 6th of July and establish connections with other local events held on the same day. Thank you. Any councillors?
I do have a quick comment that I would like to make. To begin with, I was quite, I looked at the notes from the working group, and I was quite happy with it, the decision. But that was until I noticed that the working group consisted only of a number of two people. So I sort of wanted to, well, the working group of I believe September the 4th, was that correct?
That's correct. But the group from which this recommendation comes is the August.
The August.
Right.
And that was attended by 5 members.
Okay. I mean, my concern is, I would be quite. I'm not going to sort of make a massive fuss over a date in the calendar. But my opinion was, looking at this, I think the decent thing is to actually consider another date prior to the one that it clashes with, which I believe in here is 6th of July, which is the same day as Bonchurch Open Gardens. For me, it just comes from a matter more of principle. I made the decision myself to vote against the initial the original amendment made by Councillor Lucas. And for me, I do believe in compromise, and I believe that the right thing to do is to consider an alternative date that doesn't clash with Ventnor Day, that doesn't clash with Bonchurch Open Gardens. And I came to that decision very easily, and that was because the reason given for changing the date was the fact that Edinburgh Fringe was going on. I think there was a number of other examples used by Tony at the last meeting, Tony McCarthy, Community Development Officer. And I came to the decision to actually put it out there, I suppose you could say, that actually I think we should be considering an alternative date, because there are far more other dates in the diary. There are far more other Saturdays, Sundays, even Fridays in the diary that we could possibly look at. And I feel, looking at it from my point of view, it's a little bit closed-minded to simply go back to the decision that was made by us as councillors at the last meeting, particularly when yourself, Stuart, said that councillors do make the decision. And I thought councillors did make the decision, and that's why I wish to make this point. I think that there does need to be an element of compromise, but I simply don't agree with outright reversing a decision that was clearly voted through at one of the last meetings.
Well, the first thing to say is you're absolutely correct. Councillors do make a decision, and that's what's going to happen in a few moments' time. Are you putting an amendment forward?
Well, one of my amendments would be that we put this on hold and give the staff team the opportunity.
Can I just hold you there, Councillor? You said one of your amendments.
Well, yeah.
We're talking about the date.
My only amendment would be that, and I don't have any other amendments on my sleeve, I think I can only give one anyway, but my amendment would be, or what I would propose, is that we take this back to the staff team and that they have an opportunity to discuss amongst themselves on alternative dates, of which there are very many, that do not clash with the Bonchurch Open Gardens event.
So you don't have a specific date?
I do have a date in mind that I would like, and that was the one that was agreed at the last meeting, I believe in July, which was the end of June, the last Saturday of June. I absolutely support that proposal, but because it's clearly presented some issues, I'd be quite happy to put forward a proposal to say that we take it back to the staff team and they consider amongst themselves another suitable date. I simply feel that it doesn't work trying to work around Bonchurch Open Gardens and Ventnor Day at the same time. I think as a town council we have an absolute priority to support all events, and it simply doesn't work diluting two different events. It's very well on the other side of the table here for people to say, well, I live in Ventnor East or I live in Ventnor West, but we have to look at this very impartially. You know, I don't live in Bonchurch, but I fully understand how important it is in the fundraising calendar, and we are effectively taking away funds to the Bonchurch Open Gardens event if we vote this through. So I'm compromising here. I don't want to be awkward. My proposal would be that we take it back to the staff team and they can look at an alternative date that does not clash with Bonchurch Open Gardens. I don't think it's controversial, and I don't think really I'm asking for much.
All right, just a second. You have to speak first.
Yeah, I do need a seconder.
Yeah.
So, does
so
anyone want a seconder?
your proposal is that we refer this back to the working group, or to
not to the working group, to the staff group, because that appears to me to be the problem here. It's the fact that the staff team couldn't work around that specific date. So I think it's only fair that that's the amendment that I make.
Just who exactly would the staff team be? Would it not be Tony and Co that were doing that, and yourself?
Yes.
Yeah.
in which case I don't see any difference.
I'm kind of saying that was kind of what Tony was proposing anyway.
Yeah.
Sort of sending back to Tony to say, think again.
To rubber stamp his own date.
No, the decision here clearly says
Sorry.
6th of July.
Sorry, it needs a seconder before it can be
Yeah,
discussed.
we can't discuss it in any case. Okay, so you've heard Councillor Hill's amendment. Can we have a seconder to that amendment, please? Councillor Lucas, thank you. Right, now we can open it for discussion. Councillor
Isn't Bonchurch opening day 2 days, or just 1 day?
Saturday and Sunday, yes, that's right.
So how can that represent such a big problem for 1 day? Or can Bonchurch Gardens move?
Well, when people come here, they don't go to Bonchurch. I mean, that's
But it is 2 days, Brian, isn't it? It's 2 days, isn't it?
It is 2 days, yes, that's right.
And do you find those 2 days get used? I mean, are people go all the time, or could you bring it down to 1 day?
Well, I mean, there are people who always come on the Sunday. There are people who always come on the Saturday, yes, and it's holiday makers as well. That's the issue.
I mean, Adam, sorry, I won't butt in.
I mean, like big shows, like you get like it's just a 1 day, isn't it? Like the Ag Show,
Yeah.
just 1 day. People.
I fear that Councillor Hill's amendment will result in no change. That's the problem, because Tony put forward very conclusive reasons for wanting the 7th of July, so I don't really think if I put it back to them, they'll come up with anything else. They seem to be very keen on it.
Yes, it was the 6th of July, Brian, but that's just me being pedantic. If you want to come back in, we'll wait until the end. No, we'll wait until the end.
Yeah. The only thing about moving Ventnor Day so that it doesn't clash with something else is find that day. Everything is crammed into those few weekends of the summer, and on any given day there will be more than one event that is major for the people who are involved in it. And I think if we move it, we may well find that it clashes with something equally jarringly.
Yes.
And while I
Yes.
entirely appreciate Councillor Lucas's point of view, but I think that I would support the 5th of July.
And similarly, it might pour with rain and both the events be a failure.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
So yes.
Oh, such pessimism, Councillor Logan.
Yeah, one of the things when we had the meeting with Tony last time was that he was suggesting that the two events could support each other, particularly that Ventnor Day could support the Bonchurch Gardens with the use of the minibus and all that kind of stuff. And my recommendation would be to stay with the date we've got, but ask Tony to facilitate that. Would that be
Although we're not discussing the date now, we're discussing the amendment, but it goes back to the staff group. Yes.
So I'm very sorry, but neither of us were actually at that meeting, so I'm afraid we can't really add anything or subtract anything.
Well, if you've got a view, you're carefully entitled to state your view.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's pointed out, it's 2 days in Bonchurch and 1 day in Ventnor. I'm sure it's only half a mile down the road. It can't be such a big problem. Especially with a minibar.
Well, I guess we ought to vote on the amendment and get it out of the system, don't we? Really?
Have you got anything to add before we I don't think there's anything.
Well, I mean, I don't think I'm going to change anyone's point of view, but you know what they say, have a go, but no cigar this time. I mean, I simply feel, in my opinion, that there's a very good argument for what Councillor Geddes was saying a moment ago about the fact that it is over 2 days. Well, yes, it is over 2 days, But if you work on a Saturday, like myself and a lot of other people across the Isle of Wight that do work on a Saturday, you do find yourself having to choose between one event or the other. And
I think we can take that piece of elastic and stretch it around the island as far as we can.
I feel, that obviously, judging by the feel of the room, I'm probably not going to, this one isn't going to be voted through, but it's very disappointing in my opinion, because I think that we should be supporting all events, and in my opinion, minibus going up to the church is just totally utopian. I don't think it'll happen.
Well, your views are very much on the record. Right, the amendment has been put and seconded. All those in favour, please show. We can see where this is going. All those against, please show. The amendment falls, and therefore we go back to the original recommendation. That, subject to the acceptance of the recommendation of section 2B of this report, members are recommended to accept the recommendation of the CDW Group and set the date for Ventnor Day in 2019 at 6 July and establish connections with other local events held on the same day. Can I have a proposal for that, please? Councillor Marvin, seconder. Councillor Crockett. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Sorry about it there. Another day.
Expect to see you all at the open gardens on the Sunday.
Billy, I'll give you a lift down there.
Number 8 on the agenda, the health update is going to be held over until next week. Councillor Matt was going to lead on this, and he's unfortunately not with us this evening. So we'll move to item 9 on the agenda, the Royal Mail listing of St Lawrence addresses. The floor is yours, sir.
Right, thank you. So as you can see, reading through the background, I was approached by a resident of St Lawrence who discovered during the course of having the name of his house changed that his address from the land registry came back changed as well, from St Lawrence into Ventnor. So his solicitor looked into it, and the land registry directed him towards the post office, who presumably keeps some master register of every address in the UK. And so he has been in contact with them and requested that he remains in St Lawrence. And as you can see on the back side of the note, you can see there's 4 requirements for that change, for the consultation for that change to begin. One of which is a letter of support from the local parish council, which is why I'm proposing this now. Should we get the 4 letters of approval, then there's quite an interesting process after that, as you can see in the penultimate paragraph, where the Royal Mail will go to the people of St Lawrence and ask them if they do or do not want to be registered as such, which will be quite interesting, I believe. I'm quite sure it will be a popular move. We have the support of the councillor piece as well, and that's the whole story. I don't know if you have anything to add, Clark. Perhaps you have some further insight of additional ramifications of this.
Well, you've seen my recommendation on the paper, which is that we provide a letter of support. That's my view of it.
Yeah. Hopefully it will remain either as St Lawrence or St Lawrence Ventnor. We should see sometimes it comes through as Whitwell, and I've even seen Knighton on our postcode. So hopefully this will clarify once and for all.
Okay, thank you.
Back to you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm Philippian. This is a little aside here. I live in Glenwood Terrace, which used to be Glenwood Terrace and Catherine Street. And what we tell the back of the house was the front of the house. You weren't allowed to put washing outside, so you couldn't see back of the And now it's Glenwood Terrace, Clarence Road. So some of my mail goes to Clarence Road in Vauxhall. So you can never get these things right. But that's just my own experience. Do any councillors have anything to add to this?
I would have thought Ventnor, how to keep the house prices up. You mentioned St. Lawrence. That's what I do anyway.
It's a little less slippery.
Yeah.
No, I don't think but I'm not going to forget it.
Forget it, please.
That's a wow.
So it's not clear to me who instigated the decision that St Lawrence would be dropped from addresses. Where did that come from? I can see that it's happening on the land registry, but who started that? Did they have to satisfy these 4 requirements to get that in train?
Well, I would have to refer that to Councillor Backhouse Fry, who has a long experience of St Lawrence. Perhaps you know. I mean, what was your personal experience of address dropping and changing?
Well, it's always been St Lawrence, but lately I have noticed that a lot of my mail is coming to me as Ventnor and not St Lawrence on it. And it seems to be some kind of
Maybe it's an insidious thing from the Boundary Commission.
Well, yeah. And who's going to pay for all this? You know, that's what the good citizens of Ventnor would shout. Or maybe the good citizens of St Lawrence should shout that too. But who's going to pay for it? And who's going to pay for all this insidious stuff?
Well, it seems pretty clear from the post, from Royal Mail in any case, that provided they hit the 4 letters,
and support.
then they're going to support it. So, the only thing will be the residents of St Lawrence themselves being interested to see how they fall.
Yes.
Well, it's better.
This could cause an anomaly for the good folks of Londonville and Bonchurch, who would all want parity with.
A long down,
Yeah.
a complete down. Where does that stop?
We have a similar situation in Bonchurch where it's the house name and the street, Ventnor. The very fact that it's in Bonchurch. Some people say we're in Upper Bonchurch, some people say Lower Bonchurch, so it even more splits. But the Royal Mail ignore it completely.
Well, I'm getting letters from the county council, would you believe, saying to the occupier, and that's all it says, and it says, you must not ignore this letter. It's about the electoral roll, in fact, so it is important, but it's only, you think that the county council would know who lived in the house, because they do control the electoral roll.
That's because they've got 2 different computer systems.
All right, okay, well, let's not do that now. Okay.
Just a general quick question, because you sparked my interest, Councillor Cocker did. I know in Wroxall it's Ventnor and then Wroxall, you know, and then XYZ, whatever your address is. So is this going to be a similar scenario? Is it going to be, you know, St Lawrence, Ventnor, Isle of Wight, you know, PA, 3A, whatever it is?
We'll only be able to answer that in a year's time. Hopefully.
It was more a general question.
That's what you call a hypothetical. The fact still remains that we're all within the PO38 postal code area. So, and that stretches right out past Ripley in that direction. So.
And Ripley's even classed as Ventnor, isn't it, in some cases?
God's Hill,
Yeah, God's Hill.
Okay, so Councillor Hoggett, you're moving this recommendation. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Logan. All those in favour, please show unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Glad to get the Royal Mail on side. Right, item number 10, straight back to you again, Town Council report, Mr. Clark.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. The usual collection of items, bits and pieces. First of all, just to confirm what I've already informed members that the funding applications for feasibility studies, the 2 sites we've been talking about, Ventnor Central and the London Upper Ventnor, have now been submitted last Friday. Total of £10,000 each, and members will recall committing the £1,000 each as match funding if the applications are successful. The pop-up library is safely installed in Ventnor Central.
Very nice too.
And they've done a really good job, the library staff, and deserve some congratulations for it. But it's all operating well. Spring Hill Garden, an excellent opening event, thanks to everybody who's involved with that. And I've included some thanks to the people I've been most aware of throughout, including Councillor James Toogood for making sure the project came to full fruition. Dixie Landscaping for the quality of their work, the volunteers marvellously who were there on the day and who had kept the garden alive to the point where it could be rejuvenated. The Big Lotteries Award for all streamed to the £10,000 grant, and the very generous and lovely Ventnor resident for her remarkable donation that completed the funding requirement. She doesn't wish to be named, which is why she isn't in this report, as in all the others. Salisbury Gardens, we have a new tenant in room 8. It used to be known as the Robin's room, but it's been occupied by a company since 2014, and they've moved on, and Style of White have moved in, and very successfully this too. So rooms are now all fully taken, and some 35 people now work from this building, which is wonderful. Working groups, details of their last and future meetings, and a reference to the latest meeting of the Parish's Health and Wellbeing Forum. That's it.
Thank you very much. Before I open up the discussion up, I'd just like to come back to Springhill Gardens and just to reiterate what Clark has said. Congratulations to Councillor to Dixie, as I said in my speech, which not everybody heard because of the very, very poor sound system there. Some permanent speakers erected.
Thank you very much.
With a roving microphone.
Thank you.
But I was absolutely astounded at the amount of people who turned up.
It was,
there must have been 50 or 60 people there.
Yes, good.
And it was terrific. And it was a great day. And Maureen and Claire were very good.
Yeah.
And thanks go to Mrs. Toogood also for presiding over the ribbons, which were very pretty and very, very colourful. So, John, if you could thank Stephanie on our behalf, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, very kind of you. Thank you.
I'd just like to say that I put some text and a photo into the county press at their request. They apologise for not being there on the day. They were.
Was I in the photo?
Yes, you were prominent. You were photoshopped in. Anyway, so that is in at the county press, but it wasn't in this week's county press. I assume it'll be in next.
Yeah.
And it's quite pleasant.
Space permitting.
Yes.
Without wishing to, over simplify the situation, I think Lee, you've certainly been our, Councillor Geddings, I think we should use your official title. You've been, I think, very important in the process as well. I think you're the unsung hero, and I will probably make you feel uncomfortable saying that.
I like to work in the undergrowth.
I think Lee deserves a lot of credit for the fact that she's kept the group going, and myself as someone who likes to have a line on a Saturday morning has even been persuaded to get up at 7 a.m. and do some pruning.
Thank you.
Yeah, duly noted, Councillor Howard. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah, we've done that. Yeah. Okay. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, but fortunately, the following item